Hello there, this is Debbie Heiser, and I am so stinking excited to share this new season 4 with you. And I can't believe that this is already the 4th season of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. And I just want to thank each of you who listen. And my hope is that the tools, the thoughts and experiences I share, as well as the work I've done to love myself, love others, and love the work I'm called to do, that also helps me lead a truly lit up life, will help you move into a more lit up life yourself. A few things to look for in this season. Super excited to share that we're going to be coming to you now every week with episodes jam-packed with information to serve you. Every other week, you'll hear from a guest who's leading a life that they love, and I'll be asking them to share their stories, how they got there, and any thoughts or advice that they can give you, our loyal listeners. We have new music too, and I'm so thrilled to introduce this song called Ride, sung and co-written by my friend, Miss Jackie Wilson. And she, along with her collaborators, Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee, are super talented and generous, as this song fits perfectly into the thought of stepping into your best life. To follow any or all of these talented folks, check out the show notes for their social handles. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy season 4 and do us a solid and leave us a rating and a comment to help us be able to share more with people across the globe. Now, let's get started with this episode.
You're the only one who really can transform your mind.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Lead Your Lit Up Life with Debbie Heiser. I am Debbie Heiser, CEO and founder of Lead Your Lit Up Life, and I am excited to talk to you today, a little bit of a continuation of the past or 2 podcasts ago about the law of sacrifice. But this one's more about thinking about and answering this question honestly. And sometimes we don't know how to be honest with this question. And a lot of times when I ask this question of myself or of other people, I immediately want to say, well, absolutely not. But if I step back and really think about it, there's more truth to this. And the question would be, and you can put any word at the end, and I'm going to use multiple ones. Are you addicted to the struggle? Are you addicted to the chaos? Are you addicted to the overwhelm? Or are you addicted to the confusion that's in your life? Now, those are pretty tough questions. Let me explain what I mean by that. Sometimes life feels like it's a struggle. I remember in my life when it felt like it was just a struggle to get anything, it felt like. And so I tended to have this almost scarcity mentality that nothing would come to me unless I struggled for it. Or a big one for me was about overwhelm and how I would get really busy and I would feel overwhelmed because I had so many things that I had to accomplish. And then who wants to hang out with that someone always feels like they've got so much to do, and I hear from people that they think I'm busy. I feel like I have a full life. But I feel like I also create a lot of time for myself to ski. I create a lot of time for myself to go do things with friends and family. And so it's perceptions and messages again. And so I was in the overwhelm, this feeling of too much to do and not enough time. So a message of time scarcity. And then I've also been in that situation where there seemed to be a lot of chaos that was happening. And I was confused. I didn't know what to do. So I'd ask 15 different people what they thought about an idea that I had or something that I wanted to move forward in. And ultimately, that was because I didn't trust myself and my own decision-making skills. Now, I still ask people as a board of advisors, but I'm very specific about what I want. Poke holes in this. What do you see that's missing here? Or what angle do you think I should head in this versus the one I'm going? And so I'm very specific now about what I want from them. And the law of 100% accountability says we're accountable for our own behaviors and our own reactions and our own responses. And I choose to try to respond. And so when I look at the struggle piece of it, and I look at and think about this struggle, it starts out with asking yourself, What feels chaotic right now? Or what feels like it's a struggle? Where do you feel overwhelmed? Or where do you feel like there's confusion? And I will say the confusion tends to lead to the struggle, the chaos, and the overwhelm. But give that some thought about where you feel like things are hard in your life right now, or a struggle. Or when do you find yourself feeling overwhelmed? Is it because you've overcommitted? Or is it, I found for me, it was when I committed to things that I wasn't sure I really wanted to commit to. And therefore it kind of led to some resentment, or, hey, it became really busy and created this overwhelm in me because I had all of these other emotions attached to it. And so think about, and we're going to use the word struggle, or let's use the word overwhelm right now. And so when you think about, where do you feel overwhelmed in your life right now? And what's making this overwhelmed feeling? Is it feeling like you don't have enough time, that you have a scarcity of time? Is it that your list is too long? Is it, this one was with me for a long time, as an entrepreneur, my work is never done. So if my work is never done, and I was taught to do all my chores before I went and played, I fight that message of, it's okay to go ski and play. I have plenty of time to go finish whatever else that it was that was on my list. Now, I'm very specific about the time I set aside for things. You know, I think about when I went back to get my master's. I got up every morning at 5 a.m. and I studied for 2 hours from 5 to 7 a.m. And I set an alarm, and then at 7 a.m. got in the shower and went to work. I did that 5 days a week. And then on Saturdays tended to get up early and write my papers. And so, excuse me, if you have a desire to do something, you figure out how to put that into your schedule. Where we become overwhelmed is when we try to do too many things, and or we don't create time for that. We don't look at our schedules and put together a workable plan. And sometimes, honestly, I just have to take my Remarkable and list out everything I need to do and block in some time to get it to happen. I'm going through a little bit of that right now. You're listening to this in April, towards the end of April, but I'm getting ready to leave. It's mid-March right now when I'm taping this, and I'm going to be in Paris for 3 weeks. And then I come home and have a couple of days before I teach my class at Gonzaga for 3.5 days. And then I'm home for a week to be able to see clients and head out to Chicago for business for 4 days. So I've got a pretty full schedule during that time period. And what ends up happening is that I could choose to be overwhelmed, or I could choose to take a look at it and say, let's list out everything I need to do. And then if it's that important to me, I'm going to find the time to get it done. Now, don't get me wrong, there's times then too that I just sat down and watched 10 episodes over this last week of The Last Kingdom. Because the new season came out. There's time then that I make for that. There's time that I make for relationship. And so you can make time for that. And the hack there is to just list it all out, but don't spend all this time planning to plan. And sometimes the law of sacrifice comes in, and I have to sacrifice a little sleep. I stay up a little bit later, I get up a little bit earlier, but that's not a common occurrence, is my point to this. And so when you think about this, I have to be accountable and create that for myself. No one else can. There's not going to be someone come in and swoop in and save the day. There's also the law of polarity here at work. And what the law of polarity says is there's two sides to everything. So when I hold up my Remarkable, you see the back side of this, but here's what I see are my notes. And so it's the same thing, but it's got two different perspectives. And so it's about shifting that perspective and making a conscious choice about it. So for instance, where there is struggle, the opposite side of that is ease. Which one would you prefer? I don't know about you, but I prefer things to happen easily versus having to be struggling around it. Now, sometimes we have family stories around this, and we have potential double binds that get in the way, or loyalty pacts. I want to give an example of I've had a client in the past actually, and some clients currently that are struggling with this too, where their parents scraped by and had to felt like they just had to fight for everything they had. And so what happens is then we get in our minds that if we allow ourselves to step out of the struggle and step into ease, then we're making our parents wrong, or our parental figures, when in fact that's a lie. It's just a different journey. And in all honesty, our parents want us to be happy. They want us to be successful. And if that means that we can do it with ease and grace, so be it. Now, I will say some of this is countercultural, because we wear badges of honor around how busy we are. And ask me how I know, but we wear these badges of honor about all the things that we do in our life, and the overwhelm, and all of these different things. You have to make the conscious choice to step out of it. So desire is causative, then you have a little wobble in there, and then you have to make the decision to move forward in ease, not in struggle. The opposite of overwhelm is flow. I'm in flow. So you can see struggle, overwhelm, ease, flow, they're similar, right? And when I'm in flow and I first start out, things are flowing really well. Some of us have stories that if everything's flowing really well, then the shit's going to hit the fan here pretty soon. Well, you got to let go of that too. You can't think about the shoe dropping, on top of you, because that's going to just create that. That's what you're focusing on. And so, and if you think about it, for me, God is for me, not against me. The universe is for you, not against you. So the law of polarity shows struggle, and there's another side to that, ease, and we can choose that. It shows overwhelm, or we can choose flow. It shows chaos, and we can choose calm. Now, what happens here too is sometimes we have a double bind, right? Knowing that we want to get rid of maybe the chaos in our life and have calmness. We want that, but yet there's something holding us back from that. What I found with that is, for a long time, it didn't feel comfortable, because it was different than the way I've shown up since high school. I mean, I was busy in high school. And so I had to let go of that feeling of comfort. And I talk about in a different podcast, that comfort and safety zone. I had to let go of that comfort and push the edge of that and go past the edge of that, to realize that it feels so much better to have calmness in my life, and to have flow, and have things come easily and with ease. All of that happened because the law of polarity says if you have confusion, there's clarity on the other side of that pole. And we have to choose to get clear, because again, for me, I use God. Feel free to use whatever word you want, but God is a God of clarity. If you look at nature, there is an order to things. There is order. And in my mind, when you have confusion, it's because you don't trust yourself. And it's very clear sometimes what we need to do, but we create this confusion in our brains because we're not certain, I've heard many people tell me this. I struggled with this, that is this really what the universe wants me to do? Is this really what God wants me to do? Well, all I can say to that is, if you've had a desire put on your heart, then that desire, if it has dropped in for you, is of God. It is clarity. But we try to confuse it because we don't trust ourselves. So this law of polarity shows us this. And it's important to start trusting yourself, trust that inner voice for you. When I think about another kind of double bind, and part of why I bring this up is because when I ask if you're addicted to the struggle or the chaos or the overwhelm or the confusion, is if we're struggling, if we're having a really tough time stepping out of whatever that is, usually means we're gaining something from that. And that's a tough pill to swallow. When years ago, now I haven't had this in probably 10 years, But I used to complain about all of the sicknesses that I had or how I was feeling. And, even up until 3 years ago or so, I was always complaining about the allergies that I had to food. And sometimes I see that creeping back into my conversation. But ultimately, what I was getting out of that was attention. And I unwound that all the way back to in fourth grade in Mrs. Warner's class in Monticello, Iowa. I had a younger sister. I had just had another baby sister born. And all of a sudden, again, I wasn't the center of attention. Now, as a small child, as a 1 to 5-year-old, I was the center of attention. And then came along my sister Jenny, and I was no longer the center of attention. But then it was shared. And then my sister Amanda came along, and all of a sudden I'm kind of left out in the wind, is what I felt, right? I wasn't, but left out in the wind. And so all of a sudden, every day I'm going to the principal's office with a fever. And so that's back in the day when they had the registers in the wall. And so Mrs. Warner came back in and she's like, "You're not sick, get back to class," because I had stuck the thermometer next to the register and it was like way over what any normal human would have to have. And so I laugh about that now, but it was important for me to go back and realize I got attention from my ex-husband, who, great guy, but I didn't always get positive attention from him. But it was like he was a rescuer and would come in and take care of me then when I felt sick. And then, prior to that, it was my parents. And prior to that, it was I would get attention in a different way, right? So think about and really try to be honest, because you can only grow as much as you are willing to be honest with yourself. And so really look at this and say, what am I gaining from being in the struggle? What am I gaining from being in the chaos? Sometimes it's that badge of honor, right? People see you as so busy and valuable, right? Sometimes I had to step back and realize I couldn't be on 2 or 3 boards. It felt awesome that people wanted me to come in and help them kind of create a board and create this, like, find gap analysis and do all of these things that I'm good at. And that added to my value orientation, but I couldn't do that. That created struggle. It created overwhelm. And so I also had to set up some boundaries for myself. And the interesting thing is it doesn't have to be this like formalized boundary piece. What happens is the more and more you discover what you're gaining from these things, the overwhelm, chaos, struggle, and confusion, the more you understand what you're gaining from that, the more you can let it go. And when you let it go, then it's very easy for you to say, no, not right now. I so appreciate you asking me to be a part of this board, but right now that's not in my wheelhouse, but it may be for later. Or if it's not for later, you don't say that, right? And just be really clear in your intentionality of that and have that clean energy. So think about how to uncover the story of the struggle, the confusion, the chaos, and the overwhelm, and turn it around and choose clarity, choose ease, choose calm, and choose flow, even though that may not feel comfortable to you. Get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And so with that, ask yourself the question, are you addicted to the struggle? Are you addicted to the chaos, the overwhelm, or the confusion? And choose to step out of it. And with that, it's a wrap. If you'd like to talk to me more about this, please feel free to go out to www.leadyourlituplife.com and sign up for a free consult. I would love to chat with you more about this and find out where I might be of service to you. And with that, everyone have a fantastic week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Find your own kind of happy.